to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'll never go back down.
guys tick over 3 hour mark. We are just short of about 16 laps to go, so a very quick run to the line for these guys to close up. And the gap
moving momentarily ahead, however then the pace equalises, such as the pace of the Mach 1 Esports Pink car.
See Bradley trying to go a run down the inside, not quite going to get it. Really fighting to keep how he's going to get this out. He knows he doesn't really have the braking opportunity down the inside. What's he going to be able to do next? Is he able to get into the mind of Haber here? And
round the outside he goes. This is going to be a brave move if he can pull it off. Contact between the two of them and off goes Bradley Ratu. Can he get the car slowed down? Ratu this time all the way around the outside through turn 1. It is finally where Haber's defence of second position comes to an end. It looks like it's going to be the case. Now to move up. That's not the battle over. Haber's got good straight line speed. He'll be a threat going into the bus stop. He might even be a threat going into the second horseshoe. Performance once again. 25 seconds clear. Who is going to get second place though? Ratu versus Haber. Has Haber nailed this one to get the run to the line? Does he have enough pace? We know that he's got the fastest car out on circuit, and he is drawing alongside right at the end, and there is nothing that Bradley Ratu can do. Our contact between the two of them. They both go into the wall. Who's going to cross the line first though? It is Ratu. Hello and welcome to the Acuta AOSC Super Series live on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me to cover this evening's racing is Daniel Leet with Scott Newton on the cameras. And Daniel, we are at a classic iRacing circuit, one of the original circuits all those years ago. We are at Summit Point Raceway, a circuit which isn't necessarily used a whole lot anymore. However, it has got a terrific flow about it, and it should create some pretty unique racing for these drivers today.
Yeah, definitely. Good evening first off to yourself, Sam, and to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you on board. Yeah, look, it's not a circuit, it doesn't get a huge amount of action throughout the course of the iRacing series. You see it a lot from maybe the Skip Barbers and some of the smaller categories, maybe the MX-5. But to have something like the V8s out here tonight, I think is really going to provide a fantastic show for everyone. And going to be interesting to see the way these guys are able to pedal these big, powerful V8 supercars around here.
Absolutely. Just a reminder of the format tonight, 150 kilometres. One of the sprint rounds this season, the second sprint round of the season, round 4 of the championship overall. And that means that we've got 47 laps, 47 very quick laps, it must be said, just over a minute per lap round this place. By the way, big shout out to all the sponsors which make this series possible. Acuta Solutions, providing rigging, hardware and safety equipment. Next Level Racing, working on racing and flight cockpits, and will also be providing a direct drive base to a driver. Abruzzi Raceware, providing custom sim and real racing gear. Motum Simulations, who have VR sim racing centres all around Australia. Night Rider Designs, creating personal liveries for drivers and teams. Wolf Graphics, providing personalised stickers and signs. And Sam Blacklock Media, of course, doing the race highlight photos for this season as well. And of course, Race Management Service, RMS, who is doing all the live race stewarding. Big thanks to all those sponsors for making this series as fantastic as it is. Currently in qualifying, we've only got about 5 more minutes to go in qualifying, and it is close at the moment, to say the least, Daniel. I mean, we always say, oh, it's ever so close out there. It's only this much between the top 20. Honestly, today it is quite incredible. Somehow, though, I'm looking at the standings at the moment. Harley Haber has just put in a phenomenal time. He's a 10.5 clear of the rest of the field. And then we've got pretty much 2 tenths covering the next 20 drivers. So, I mean, that is some effort right now from the 21 car.
Yeah, really solid effort. I mean, coming off a strong race I had last week at Daytona, backing it up again, and we saw him be pretty competitive as well the first time out at Brands Hatch, so expecting good things from that team. But yeah, it's surprising to see just how tight this field is. pretty well right the way through. We've got everyone only less than 2 seconds covering the entirety of this field. So racing's going to be all important. And I think later on, once we get into the swing of things, some really big areas around this circuit that we'll touch on as well, where we'll see probably some really good passing opportunities and some fantastic racing as well.
Of course, one of the most competitive leagues in all of iRacing, the AOSC Super Series, and to get in, you got to be very competitive. And then we had pre-qualifying as well for this round, and that means that you got to be even faster. You got to be very quick in qualifying, especially just to get in one lap to get yourself in this top split. So these are some properly competitive drives, hence why the times are so quick. Also, of course, the length of the circuit as well really does bunch everyone up. Plenty of attempts for the drivers to put in their tires. They can take back to the pits if they so wish to, and we'll be playing plenty of competitive times, I'm sure. In the championship, James Scott has been doing many competitive times because he has won every round of the championship so far. Remember, 2 team rounds, and he also won the solo round as well at Brands Hatch. So he's 130 points ahead of teammate Carl Stokes. James McKee with some consistent finishing for Pursuit Sim Racing. He's got maybe 1 podium so far, but has just been always there or thereabouts, says James McKee. I think being in the top 6 every round of the championship so far. He sits in 3rd. Thomas Hines is in 4th, and Harley Haber in 5th, who's going to have a fantastic first round of the championship. However, Haber's probably been the main rival to Scott in the last couple of rounds. And just a quick words on that last round of the championship, Daniel, at Daytona. In the end, it was quite comfortable for Evolution Racing Team 88. But for the most part, they were really challenged throughout, and it just shows how competitive it is. It's quite incredible how James Scott has so far had a clean sweep this season, considering the competition that he's against.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a fantastic job at AOT to get the most out of those cars, and three on the trot's a fantastic effort for that. Be interesting to see how the guys go tonight. Obviously, Scott currently sitting down in the 3rd position, so we know the pace is already there in that car. But I think the likes of Harley Haber and that within Mark 1 team, I mean, they were very competitive for the opening round at Spa, and unfortunately had a couple of issues that prevented them from really getting up on that podium. But we saw last week out at Daytona just how quick they were, and the ability for them to come up and down throughout the course of the field over the night was really impressive. So I think they're going to put in for a fantastic run tonight, and I think we'll see some solid racing pretty well all the way up the field. Probably the big thing we did need to touch on, and for any of the viewers who didn't see it, or you might have caught it just in the end of the pre-race, there was that fantastic finish at Daytona there, where we saw Scott obviously win. But the big talking point at the end of it was the coming together of both Bradley Ratu and Harley Haber. Now, when we were doing the interviews, we were a bit unsure as to how that would go. We did find out at the end of that race control actually reversed those 2 positions around, and we saw as a result of that Harley Haber getting promoted up into 2nd position. So pretty big penalty there, and great to see that it could be resolved as quick as it was.
Yeah, definitely. The stewards straight away on that. Not like one real life series, which I won't mention, which quite often takes hours after the race to decide on such a decision. The stewards in this series absolutely on it straight away, and yeah, very much a good call, I think, when it came to that. Just to switch of positions, not see big penalties given out. So he's 20 seconds left in this session. Currently watching Danny Davison trying to improve on his time, slaloming through that middle sector. It's a strange circuit, this, a little bit, a proper club circuit, Daniel, because we got the first part of that, which is quite expansive. You've got that big braking zone into turn 1, and you've got the last sector as well, which is quite blank. And then that middle sector is such a tight, twisty infield. It almost sets itself apart from the rest of the track, and it's kind of where you can make up the most lap time.
Yeah, you can certainly make a lot of moving or positional gains up and down under the brakes. Probably a couple of key points that I want to keep an eye on later on during the course of the race. The run through Wagon Bend, which is turn 3, just before you head down the chute, and then once you get into the chute where we're seeing the guys working their way out of, that little twisty tight section through the carousel, yes, is going to be really key just to see how those guys position the car and what sort of rotation they can get out of them. The run out off the final straight, as we keep an eye here with Jordan Caruso going across the line, these cars are going to want to move around a bit. Keeping them out of that power band is going to be key to getting the power down and pushing the best lap time possible.
Yeah, will be plenty of challenges for these guys, and of course overtaking Sopyan's hatch was at a premium. I'd say that actually we ended up having quite a few moves just because I think qualifying mixed up the field quite a bit. I think necessarily have the fastest drivers in the race at the front for qualifying, because qualifying is so close. If you make a small mistake as a top driver, you can be a little bit out of position for the race start. Jordan Crusoe, I believe this is a flying lap for him. If it is, he's got 20 seconds to get round, and he feels as though he's probably not going to be able to do that. Same case with Andrew Gilliam. Or just let the clock run down, then we'll be able to go through your grid. 45 drivers today. That is the maximum amount of drivers we can have on the grid. Terrific turnout once again for the AOSC Super Series. We've very much come accustomed to it. Fantastic turnout in the team races as well. It's fantastic to see this series thrive as it is currently. So, the grid position. So round 4 of the championship is Harley Haber on pole position. 10th and a half clear of Andrew Gilliam. That's a big gap compared to the rest of the field. James Scott, championship leader, lines up on the second row of the grid alongside John Emerson. Then it's Daniel Ackland, Danny Davison, Glenn Postlethwaite. Great qualifying for Glenn, actually. Matt Morris, Sean Thompson, and Kenneth Latter rounding out the top 10. Then it's Jordan Ross, Joshua Pickard, Adam Briggs, Guy Leach, James McKee a little bit further down in 15th, Bradley Batu in 16th, and then it's Damian Johnson, Michael Taliancic in 18th, Sean Linsell, and Andrew Dyson around the top 20, and the rest of the drivers will go through for you now. Daniel, any drivers who you see there who are perhaps a little bit out of position, and we could see some moves being made by them today?
Yeah, look, a couple that I probably think we need to keep an eye on later on. Maybe Michael Taliancic, we saw he was very quick at Daytona and actually been quick throughout the course of the season, but starting down in that 18th spot, so he'll be one to try and work his way up towards the front. A little bit further down, probably than where I would have thought, and one where we saw him taking a drive-through off the start of the Brands Hatch race. Jamie McKnight currently sitting down in the 24th as well. Thomas Hinz down there as well. So some quick drivers further throughout the field. Got obviously a lot of talent towards the front. So we'll keep an eye on everyone. And for anyone interested in checking a good onboard view, Scott Gamble and Rob Harris also live streaming this one as well. So worth jumping over there and having a look at those guys too.
Absolutely. But stick with us as well, because this is the best place to get all the action. So, we are nearly ready then for this Summit Point round. 150 kilometers, round 4 of the championship is underway. Harley Haber from the pole position. Can he hold on to it going into turn 1? It seems like a decent start. However, it is a very long run down to the first corner as two drivers go way off the circuit. And there's a big collision straight away for a couple of guys. Haber, though, still out in the lead. Gilliam staying ahead of Scott. So far, no changes at the front there as a driver skids across on the inside of the circuit and causes a lot of contact. They're trying to go either way, but the car just blocking the circuit, and we have got a caution straight away. Daniel Ackland from the front of the field as well, having a bit of a slide, but the safety car is out straight away. In the end, I think, did James Scott get ahead right of Danny Davison? In fact, I think Gilliam lost a few places there, so all happening there, Daniel, and we had collisions straight off the start, and then another big collision at turn 1 as well.
Yeah, a lot of biff and barge on the way through. I think one of the early cars we saw going off was that, I think, of Rob Harris getting involved in it as well. Looked like also one of the DPR cars coming in very last minute off the grass there into turn 1, and that basically set the whole thing off. So guys a little bit optimistic maybe on trying to get a few moves done early on. We're going to see the field redress. Gilliam, I think, will jump back into second place. So Scott not quite getting ahead there off the line, but he'll settle back in, and now obviously with the safety car being out, he'll get his chance for redemption on the restart.
Yeah, so there was one collision. I'm just looking at the replay of the start, and yeah, there was one collision straight away, then another collision down into the first corner, and then one through the first corner as well. So now you'll see it for yourselves, and absolutely all going on down the order. It just shows how narrow this circuit is, and it was Sean Thompson then who I don't think he could take all the responsibility necessarily, but with a 4 starts. And really got involved. Jamie McKnight almost off the circuit, going round the outside. That is very brave. You're putting a lot of faith in your fellow drivers, and that faith was probably not best placed. In fact, actually, he got through pretty nicely there to Jamie McKnight. So gaining a few places, he's up into 18th position. We'll go through the drivers who have profited and the drivers who got involved in that. can see straight away the race stewards onto it, deploying the pace car. It won't be a long pace car situation, this. It's a very short lap, probably only a couple of laps underneath it. But yeah, that's it's a tricky situation there, Daniel. A few drivers not getting off the line well, and straight away 4-5 wide around one of the narrowest circuits on iRacing.
Yeah, not really going to work all the way down into one. You can see that bit of contact with the EXG car and DPR Racing on the run in there that really set everything off, and a lot of cars with a huge amount of damage there. Guy Leach missing a rear wing. We've got a few guys there you can see just sliding on the run out there with the cold tyres. So a lot of settle down that these guys will need to do just to get themselves back into position. Unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of guys that'll be still in the pit lane. I think Sean Thompson's still there, Greg Sharp as well. So some guys well down on where they would ideally like to be right now.
So I think just at the end of that replay, we saw how Gilliam actually spun through turn 2, but before that, the pace car had been deployed. So he managed to take back that second place. He had dropped down to 4th, maybe even 5th, if the drivers behind him were fighting a bit more. So he was Mr. Lucky there, Andrew Gilliam, and James Scott maybe feeling as though the best chance for him to take another race victory. We believe, I think it'd be his 7th race victory in 7 races if you count the races from the last season. His best chance maybe off the start hasn't happened that way. He's remained in 3rd place. So Daniel Davison then up a place, Postlethwaite up a place, and Daniel Ackland, who I think we also saw almost spinning going through turn 2. He is in 7th, dropping a couple of places. Briggs up 4, McKee up 5, Brett Loxton up 8 places into 15th place. And then we've also got Greg Sharp up 10 places. Damien Johnson down 10, Guy Leach down 8. Bradley with 2 also, that's a disappointing start for him. And Carl Stokes as well. He was already down in 27th place, Carl Stokes, a driver who we expected to be moving through the field. However, he was involved in that collision as well. He's down into 40th place, so watch out for him. The pace car lights are still on, so I assume, Daniel, that means that we're going to have another lap around the pace car.
Yeah, I think we'll go at least one more time while they get everyone back up on the train. We've still got one car out of sorts, which is that of Michael Spithill, which didn't actually take the line. So he's still sitting in the pit lane. Everyone else working their way now down in towards the carousel, and race leaders closing in on the final corner here. But it looks like the pace car is actually pulling away, so we should be getting set for a restart here.
Yeah, that does actually seem to be the case. So Harley Haber on this second restart of the race. Can this one go well? And yeah, actually the pace car's still there. Apologies. So Haber just pulling a little bit further behind. Yeah, we will get one more lap in, and maybe we'll see the lights go out. Very far down the pit straight, this start-finish line. But there they go. We could see a run to line later on as the pace car lights do go out. So yeah, we will be going back underway in a couple of minutes' time. But I mean, Haber there was very solid off the line, it must be said, and maybe a couple of mistakes so far from the 21 car so far this season, but that was a rock solid start. It seemed like he got one of the best starts of the whole grid.
Yeah, he really was able to walk the car well off the line and extended quite a good lead early on, so really was uncontested going into one, which is what you want to do around this circuit when you have such the tight braking zone where the road obviously turns back a long way on itself. You want to get those starts cleaned off and done as well as possible. So he did a fantastic job there. A couple of guys a little further down getting away quite well as well. Basically everyone from the top two front rows getting off fantastic. Well, Danny Davison and Postlethwaite as well, jumping that extra spot there for themselves. So pretty much everyone in that top 6 getting away well. Looks like we've still got a few cars in the lane that have dropped down quite a long way as well, so we'll see if they're able to rejoin, which I think they should be able to do, as working our way where we're now down in through the chute. So it's a pretty long run here for these guys at this slow speed.
Yeah, we've got 43 cars in the train. Seems like David Kimman might be out of the race. So to Sean Thompson. I think Thompson was the one who got the poor starts at turn 1 and then went off into Narnia, it seemed. He might still be towing back to the pits because under the pace car, your towing time does increase quite significantly. So otherwise, you'd probably be the fastest around the circuit. Such is the pace of the safety car. Watch out as well for the drivers. potentially some cool tyres straight away here. And we saw maybe some cool tyres part of the explanation why we had quite a few incidents going into turn 1 as well. So watch out for that one. Drivers locking their brakes. Hopefully we get a better start to this first safety car restart than we got from the race launch. So here we are then. Harley Haber from the first position. He's holding the field ever so slowly before he's going to launch it. And away we go. The 21 car getting his foot down on the throttle, and he's straight away made a handsome gap over Andrew Gilliam. James Scott's in 3rd position. John Emerson still in 4th. We'll see if there's going to be any moves going into turn 1. Having to go defensive is John Emerson against Danny Davidson. He should have that one covered on the inside, but Davidson much braver on the brakes. Can he go round the outside without camber? Of course, the outside of the circuit dips the wheel into the grass though, and it could have been a whole lot worse for him as he gets a shove from behind. Sean Linsell also getting a little bit of a poor start. Seemingly some damage on that car straight away. And I think he's dropped a couple of places straight on the restart.
Yeah, good restart from everyone there, getting away. No incidents at all, a little bit of bump contact, which you kind of expect how tightly compressed that field was, but really solid start from everyone there. We're keeping an eye a little further down the grid at the moment, down in 20th position, Sean Linsell, doing a pretty good job, a little bit of damage on that car. He's got Mullen right behind him as well, so look for Mullen to make short work of this and push forward. You can see him just edging that nose in and slightly escorting him wide there, gets that position done. So that'll drop Linsell down to the 21st. We've got another car in Daniel Ackland running very, very wide through the final portion of the S's there.
He was up in 7th place, was Ackland. He's down into 13th. That's one of the worst times to have an escort off the circuit, because he's lost a lot of places straight away, and it's not going to be easy to make them back up. He might lose a place to Taliancic as well. And then once you lose one place, you can get freight chained by a few other drivers. And this is tricky times right now for Daniel Ackland. He's continuing to lose positions. He'll have the inside line for turn 2. Backs out of it probably wisely. And that mistake has cost him about 8 places right there. So he drops down into 16th.
Yeah, we'll be able to get back from that and recover. Still a long way to go in this race. 41 laps on the clock and counting, so you should be all right. We are seeing also a penalty for Brad Ratu. He'll have a drive-through as a result of that lap 1 contact, so he will need to come down the lane. Brad's currently sitting, I'm just trying to find him on the list, well down the order at the moment, down in 36th position, so that's a little bit more issue for him tonight.
Yeah, there he is. He's very much away from the rest of the order. Harley Haber, by the way, fastest up of the race that last occasion, 0.3 of a second faster than 2nd place man Andrew Gilliam, who's under a little bit of pressure from James Scott. By the way, getting out of the race is Stephen Barger. He towed back to the pits and has disconnected from the session almost instantly, which implies not particularly happy racing driver. So maybe getting caught up in a collision there. So shame to see Barger straight away out of this one, as Sean Linsell off the circuit. Brett Loxton, apologies, maybe off the circuit. I think Linsell also had a little bit of an incident, but Loxton now 2 places down from his race start. I think he lost about 10 places there going into turn 2.
Yeah, a little bit down on probably where he wants to be right now, but we should be able to work up. We've got a replay up on screen. We'll jump to the onboard here just to get an idea of what happened. So the guy's working their way down through Wagon Bend. It just gets those tyres on the grass there. A little bit of contact with the outside wall. Hopefully he was able to keep that steering straight, otherwise it's going to make it a very hard night for him getting that car around.
The circuit model back in 2007 or so. I don't know if the tyres were a bit softer, made out of cushions back then, but it seems as though they were, because there doesn't seem to be much damage on that car. Brett Loxton still going absolutely fine up there. Like I said earlier on, one pit stop for these drivers. They don't have to do a pit stop. It's recommended though, because you won't get very far on a tank of fuel. 47 laps, of course, this race. So once we could well see a few early pit stops for drivers who have got down to take that fast repair and get some clean air as well. Because as we've seen so far, overtaking not the easiest thing in the world, as Loxton dipped a wheel on the grass to lose 10 places just a moment ago, almost does the same crime straight away. Jordan Caruso, he started quite far down, a little bit further down than we're used to seeing him. However, he's gained a few places so far, up into 22nd place, apologies, 21st place, up 7 places from his start. Also got Guy Leach just in front, trying to get past Sean Linsell, who's been falling down ever since the restart. And I think that is Linsell dropping 1 more place.
Yeah, so Linsell well down on where he wants to be at the moment. Just got another replay up with Kyle Stokes. Keep an eye on that also.
So Stokes in 38th position now after that incident. Harley Haber 1.2 seconds ahead of Andrew Gilliam, another 0.3 of a second faster. We know Haber is capable of this. 0.3 around such a short circuit is pretty incredible. You've got to be absolutely nailing every single one of these corners. That car clearly dialed in. Because this is a new car, relatively new car to iRacing, was introduced a couple of months ago. And so there's no data on this circuit. There's no data on the majority of these circuits. And so clearly they've just absolutely got it perfectly for this place. And see James Scott just having a glance at Andrew Gilliam. It's difficult to tell at the moment, Daniel, but if Scott did get past Gilliam, by the way that we've seen his car, do you think he's maybe got the pace to match Harley Haber or maybe even catch him up?
Yeah, I think looking at what we saw from qualifying and the attitude of the car at the moment, he's definitely got the pace to close back up onto Haber. I think Gilliam just holding him up a fraction. When you look at the sector times going through, Scott about a 1/10 of a second quicker in the midsection, sectors 2 and 3, just losing pretty much most of the advantage on the run down in through turn 1. So definitely got a quicker car, should be up or able to close down that gap just as well. So keep an eye on this as it unfolds. But Gilliam doing a fantastic job, take nothing away from him. He's from Shit Racing doing a fantastic job keeping that car in second. And I mean, this could be a fantastic night for him and a really good podium if he can hold in with this position. 37 laps still on the clock. There's a long way to get these cars home.
Yeah, it sure is. At the moment, the track temperature, by the way, for these just 28 degrees, pretty cool. It's 4 o'clock in the evening, as well, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, apologies, on the 15th of May. I don't know why it's quite so cold. But of course, West Virginia, this, so I was wondering, what does WV stand for? But no, West Virginia, I assume that is. I don't know if it's the UK, West Virginia, but it's relatively cold, it must be said. 18 degrees, mostly cloudy at the moment. Although there is a decent amount of sun, you'll see that change thanks to the dynamic skies on iRacing. You might see the dynamic day to night on this occasion at least. On that last lap, Gilliam losing another 10.5, so it does seem to be going very much the way of Harley Haber. You can see about 0.8 of a second separating all these guys in the top 7. They're in a little bit more of a gap back to Adam Briggs, who's just ahead of James McKee. He's had a good start, 6 places from 15th on the grid. We were a bit concerned that he did qualify a little bit further down, did McKee. However, he's recovered well since then. Got a nice train of cars behind Greg Sharp currently, all very close to one another. Probably the closest battle, maybe the most imminent overtakes out on the circuit. Sharp up 11 places himself into 22nd. We've got Brett Loxton, who made that mistake earlier on and made contact with the wall. Doesn't seem to be affecting him too much though at the moment, Daniel.
No, not too much at all. The last lap time was a 109.4, best of a 109.04, so only 0.4 of a lap slower. It looks like he's able to get that car still working in towards mid-corner. A little loose, must be said, mid-corner to exit, but could be tweaked just with a little bit of a roll bar change later on, potentially. We'll keep an eye on that, but great to just see just how these cars are moving around so much through some of these sections here. But to Greg Sharp in front, still Sinforce just running a touch slower than Sean Mansell, who could just catch a slight frame of, but I think Loxton is really starting to size up the back of that Penrite machine that Greg Sharp's on board with, looking for a couple of opportunities to start poking in the nose of the Zuma car up the inside there.
Yeah, probably turn 1 is best opportunity. And the good thing with turn 1 So on the exit, it's not an easy traction zone. So even if the driver ahead of you does defend into one on the inside, you can get a cutback and maybe get the run into turn 2 as well, which is quite a significant corner for these cars. And single seaters, it's pretty quick, just pretty much a lift, barely anything on the brakes around this. In these cars, you've got to be much more careful. If anything, Loxton under pressure more from behind than he is ahead from Rob Bowden for Tanks SRT. They're running in the top 10, I believe, at Daytona, but Bowden not quite finding the same pace today, up 7 places from his start, so a tricky qualifying situation for him as we see the 033 car for the circuit. Damien Johnson losing a place on that occasion to Casey Mann. Johnson, though, fortunate that there weren't too many cars behind him, but just shows the proximity of the gravel traps and the grassy areas. Not much runoff area whatsoever around this place. Proper old school club circuit. And so if you do make a mistake, you will really pay for it. Adam Briggs coming under more pressure now from James McKee. The gap's down to 4.5 tenths of a second. Not a massive slipstream effect though in these cars. And he just cannot get within the close enough to make an overtake. They aren't losing too much time to the drivers ahead anymore, but I'm sure McKee has sights on better places than Pierre. Yeah, it's a spin just ahead. Or a slide at least.
Yeah, it looks like one of the ERT cars. I think it might have been Jordan Ross going a little bit wide through there, so a little further, bit of an issue there. I think lost 1 or 2 positions as well. Cut back to the replay here. And you just see him on the back of one of the cars ahead and just catches a touch of that grass on the run through Wagon Bend. Able to catch it well and really not hit a wall, unlike what we saw from Brett Loxton before, but did lose a position there to Adam Briggs. So it was fortunate just to lose that one spot, but we'll be able to recover pretty well. He's going to have to keep an eye though. James Mackey, current 3rd position in the sprint championship, right behind him and looking to still add more points to his tally.
Yeah, that was, well, I mean, mega unlucky for James McKee. He must be thinking, oh, if I just got past Adam Briggs on the last lap, then I would have been able to get past Briggs, and then I would have been ahead as well of Jordan Ross as well. But unfortunately, he's behind the pair of them still, so quite working out for him at the moment. Lap 15 of 47. These laps are rattling by. Remember, quite a few of them under the pace car after a couple of big collisions on the opening lap of the race. Had to be neutralised the race, and ever since then we've seen some much cleaner racing. Here just continuing to spread out. Not sure if we can get the track map perhaps up on the screen just to show the spread. Perhaps going to be some lapping of traffic later on. We saw that quite prominent at Brands Hatch, and this is a much shorter circuit than Brands Hatch, I guess. Currently the field from 1st down to 38th. Which is highly favoured to Carl Stokes. We usually say that about Carl Stokes, but he's having a tricky round. About half a lap already, so we could even see some lapping before the pit stops come into fruition.
Yeah, well, down in 40th position, you've got Josh Morgan there, so he's going to be the next car to come under fire from Harley Haber and this train as it works its way around at the start of lap 16. So keep an eye on that, and for anyone also interested, you can check out the live track map and timing on the link at the bottom of the YouTube page there. So we're jumping on board and checking out that, all provided by SDK Gaming. So great bit of software there that you can use, and helps just get a good idea of where these cars are. But right behind, John Emerson trying to work on the back of James Scott as well. For the eagle-eyed amongst you, you see that orange banner on the windshield there of James Scott, denoting the current points leader. That will potentially change throughout the course of the season as we see these drivers working their way through this championship as well.
I'm sure the organisers, they're not a big fan of James Scott necessarily, no favouritism of course, but it's a bit less work for them if Scott can go dominate the championship as he is at the moment. Will almost certainly be the championship leader coming out of this round, and if it ended like this, he would extend his lead. James McKee coming into the pits, so he's had enough. He was stuck behind Jordan Ross and Matt Morris, and he's thought, nah, not having that, I'm going to come into the pits. Risky manoeuvre this from James McKee, I must say, because he could come out in a lot of traffic. We'll see where he does come out, but going to have to make some moves. This is an ambitious undercut.
Yeah, I'm really not sure if this is going to play out. I'm keeping an eye on the track map as everyone filters through. He's almost going to drop down to the very back of this line. So from what was quite high up the order, he is going to filter in down in the 36th position. So just goes to show with the shortness of this lap, just how far you can drop down. And he comes out in a little bit of traffic as well. Jamie Stovall just ahead of him, right behind Kyle Stokes, the recovering Kyle Stokes after his issue a handful of laps ago. So got a lot of good cars around him. It's going to be tough for him to work his way back up, but obviously everyone else considering pit stops as well, so we'll keep an eye on that to see where they come in. It looks like we're going to get a few more jumping in the lane right now.
Yeah, John Emerson and Glenn Postlethwaite coming into the pits. Surprised that Jacob Knight doesn't come into the pits, to be honest, with the amount of damage he's got on that machine. The good news, I guess, for McKee is that he's ahead of Stokes. That would have been painful for him if he'd been behind Stokes, because I think even with fresh tyres, he would have struggled to get past a driver as quick as Kyle. So at least he's ahead of him, and these next few overtakes for him should be quite simple. However, he's not going to get the full benefit of those fresh tyres. Maybe worth going for the undercut though, because he's got too much to lose perhaps. Postlethwaite and Emerson should still be ahead of McKee. They are well ahead of McKee. 2 cars between them. In fact, Postlethwaite has now Spittle between himself and Emerson. So that's good news for him. Postlethwaite going to try to gain a couple more positions as well. Got Brenton O'Brien just ahead. Postlethwaite still can't get past Dyson. I think he's going to have to filter in behind. Going into this middle part of the circuit, we'll look to the inside. It's going to be an ambitious move. Oh, well, that was a contact between all 3 of them. They're all trying to overtake one another, seemingly. And this is losing Postlethwaite crucial time. This could leave him susceptible to an overcut, potentially, from his rivals. And there's just no way around this part of the circuit. Or tries to get the move into the final corners. I think we're going to see the driver just ahead of him of Dyson as well, gets him past O'Brien first.
Yeah, it was a good move from Dyson there. Got that set up a couple of corners ago. We saw him on the exit get a better run. Then O'Brien having to go very defensive now. And this little train of 3, Postlethwaite trying to also go through, may get a touch of the grass here. I think he'll get this move completed on Brenton O'Brien, but these 3 going to be very, very close. O'Brien, though, hanging tough on the outside, does now fall from that position to Postlethwaite. So these 3 very equally matched under braking. Good positional space left for all of them as well.
Oh, Postlethwaite's going to go around the outside. That was ambitious. He's on the gravel. Could that be a slowdown potentially? I think he can pick up slowdowns if you go wide there. He's gaining a bit of time out. It doesn't seem as though he's had to serve a slowdown. However, I think more importantly, he hasn't been able to overtake. Yeah, look at the queue of cars straight behind them. It's odd that they're all queuing behind Andrew Dyson as well, because, or seemingly maybe more like Brenton O'Brien, because they're not all got fresh tyres as such. There's a few of them who've got fresh tyres, but the majority of them are seemingly faster than Brenton O'Brien. He's very much at the cork in the bottle, as Postlethwaite doesn't even have the pleasure of passing Andrew Dyson because he's straight into the pits.
Yeah, Dyson been keep an eye on where he comes out, because we do have a slow car actually just getting back underway. That was the car of Jordan Ross, who I believe just had a spin on the exit of the S's. He's back underway now. We'll go down a position as well, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see just where that car does come out. Our leaders are about to go by, and looking down here at the moment, Andrew Dyson, sorry, just on the exit, so potentially Dyson could be looking at going 1 lap down here.
He'll be hoping that we don't have a safety car. That wouldn't be particularly good for him, although I guess he would get back on the lead lap. Yeah, Dyson could potentially be susceptible to that one. Doesn't seem like we're going to have too much lapping before these guys come into the pits. Expect the most of them to come into the pits pretty soon, because we're nearly at the halfway stage of this race. Quite a few laps under the pace car as well. I think about 4 laps under the pace car. That will help these tyres go a bit further, and like I said earlier on, relatively cool track temperature, which is continuing to cool. So it could be quite comfortable for these guys for this first stint. Andrew Gilliam, credit to him though, I was writing him off earlier on, I think, Daniel, saying he's constantly losing quarters of a second a lap. However, how he's starting to maintain the gap to Harley Haber.
Yeah, he's doing a really, really solid job right now. Just watching as we see the onboard here, you can see the car moving a little bit. A couple of things I've noticed on the way he's placing that car, a little bit defensive on the run end at the start of the carousel there, which seems to be backing him up. You can see there just struggling to get the nose of the car down in on the apex of Paddock Bend. So maybe the balance of that car just starting to go away, but he's able to maintain really solid pace over James Scott, and I think James probably just settling into a really solid rhythm here right now. We're also just seeing too a penalty for James Mackey. He'll get a drive through as a result of some contact a couple of laps that go, so that's going to really hurt him. We saw him having the pit stop early on, a little bit more to add to that one for him.
Yeah, safe to say that pit stop hasn't worked out for him. It left him a lot to do, and of course, indirectly, has I think probably caused that collision because he was to make his way through, maybe getting a little bit too aggressive there. Rob Bowden, he's making some better progress now as Bowden. I mean, he had a pretty good start, to be fair. He's up into 15th place, up 16 places, and he's now got 5 seconds of clear air, so an opportunity for him to set some big lap times. Could well overcut a few drivers. Really wouldn't make sense for him to come in right now because he's really got the pace as he's pulling away from the drivers just behind in that tanked esports car. Baker delivery on that one, as are shared by many drivers out there. One of the most fantastic looking grids out there. And of course, Knight Rider Designs, I believe, doing a few of the liveries as well for the grids. One of the sponsors of the series. So Bowden will try to pull away. Latzer, Knight, Hines and Linsell all coming into the pit. So we had a little bit of a quiet time for the pits. Only a few drivers coming in, and we see a few more going into that very unusual pit entry. Just a matter of time till someone understeers, I imagine, and veers off into a handful of cars through the final corner. However, we haven't seen it so far. Also, very short pit lane, so not too much time lost. About half a minute when you see other places such as Road America are much longer than that. Postlethwaite still having to make some moves up through the order. Oh, that's a risky move, but his rival gives him a bit of room. And Glenn Postlethwaite, who was running as high as 6th place, I believe, earlier on, makes up one more place. However, it's not coming easy to him at the moment. You can see the extra grip he's got on his rivals.
Yeah, doing a really good solid job there, working his way through. See our race leader now comes in the lane for his first stop. Adam Briggs likewise all in. This will now release Andrew Gilliam and James Scott, so potential we could see Scott try and get a bit of a move done. So we've got a little bit of smoke at the bottom of turn 1. It might have been a little bit of a lock up there. Just clearing. There is a few lap cars now starting to appear in front of these guys that we're going to have to start contending with. You can see up on the track map there. So I'd be considering maybe coming in the lane sooner rather than later, get that stop done and dusted and back out underway. Looks like Haber has dropped back down into the 5th position from his stop as well, so not a huge amount of time lost comparative to the leaders, and now that they're starting to expand, he should be able to potentially hold that when he gets back around as these guys come in the lane soon.
That was really good from Haber. He's come out in I'm looking, he's got a 10th of a lap, whatever that means. Probably 10 seconds, I guess, to the next car. No, that's awful maths for myself. About 6 seconds, I think, to the next car. As James Scott comes into the pits, he's going for the undercut. He's not going to be able to do the overcut on Haber just because Haber had such a clean air. However, Haber did have a slightly longer pit stop, 18.48 seconds. That's comparison to some drivers who have been in the low 16 seconds. And Scott wasn't too far behind, so Haber should maintain the lead. However, Scott might be quite close. He's going to have a really short pit stop in order to be able to stay ahead. Here is some drivers who have taken tyres and some drivers who haven't taken tyres. Big pack of cars. That's for 11th place, of course, will change quite soon. Josh Morgan and Michael Whiting coming into the pits from that, as Haber just gets ahead of Scott. However, I was a bit concerned there for Harley Haber. Scott ahead coming out of the pit lane. However, his momentum was so slow that he couldn't get ahead. But the gap's smaller, at least. Scott had a 2 second shorter pit stop. So yeah, so if it weren't for a quick lap for Haber, then he would have been in trouble. He was pretty fortunate that they didn't come out in traffic. Otherwise, we could have seen a change for the lead.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good stop from both drivers there. The next one on the list, and just as we're speaking, is dropping in the lane, Andrew Gilliam's in for his stop as well. So will now need to keep an eye on where he feeds out, along with Jordan Ross, Matt Morris all coming in as well. So this could be interesting. Gilliam potential either going to retain that second outright, or will we see him drop behind the car of Scott? We'll pull up the map now. Thank you, Scott. And just so you can see, as these cars are working their way around, Gilliam's still stationary in the lane. I'd be looking for him to just start moving ever so slowly about now. But I think he will fall back in as they get back underway, now behind Scott.
Yeah, I think so. There is Haber. Oh, he might still be ahead of Scott. Yeah, it wasn't a terrific outlap from Scott. Scott had a quicker pit stop as well, so must have just been the cold tyres, I guess. Oh, that's a big hit on the curb. Has he been able to keep control of that car, Andrew Gilliam? Yeah, he has. But yeah, James Scott just not delivering the time then that he needed on those fresh tyres. Clearly too cold, as I was saying. And yeah, that's not done a whole lot of good for him. Now Gilliam goes off the circuit again. This isn't a good outlap for him. Can't afford too many mistakes like this. But he is still in that second place. So troublesome sort for James Scott. He's not seemingly challenging for the race win too much at the moment. Still half the race remaining. Going into turn 3 and 4 though. Very close to some of these drivers. I think now it's just a move for the 72 car of
the 72. That's Adam Briggs there getting that move done on Brenton O'Brien in the ERT car. So Brenton probably not having the best run out there tonight. Must be said, the setup not quite working for him, because you see just how much of a gap he's already dropped back off the car there. So something not working out well for him at the moment.
Oh, as Scott versus Gilliam now, going into turn 3. Scott on the outside. Gilliam was struggling on the fresh tyres. Can he hold on to second place? No, he can't. James Scott moves up into second place. Brilliant move there, and he didn't have a whole lot longer to be able to make it. In the end, that undercut, whilst it didn't get him track position initially, it allowed him to warm up the tyres, and once Gilliam was struggling on those cold tyres, Scott has made absolutely full use of it, and he's up into second place. But Andrew Gilliam will be kicking himself there, I imagine. Matt Morris also off the circuit. He's dropping a lots of places at the moment. Was running up in the top 10 was Morris previously. However, he's now dropped down into 21st position. I am seeing the 660 car. But word on James Scott, I mean, that was a great move going into turn 2.
Yeah, really a strong move. Just allowing enough position there for Andrew Gilliam and himself to get through those corners. But yeah, really showing the class of what he's been able to put through throughout the course of the year. Big thing I'm interested to see now is what is he able to do in closing the gap down to Haber as we cut back on board. You can see just where he set this up, coming over the line there, runs him almost out to the line, pretty well sold the dummy. And then for whatever reason, Gilliam moved down the inside, down back to the braking line. A little surprised there that he didn't try and hold that inside line there.
Yeah, I think he was thinking, I'll leave 0.98 of a car's width on the inside, and that was all James Scott needed, and he wedged his car down the inside. It was a bold move, especially for a championship leader, and you can see the gap that he straight away pulled out. And Gilliam struggling in this second stint. Someone just asking on the YouTube chat, are there different tyre compounds for these drivers? No tyre compounds. Hopefully will be an element added to iRacing in the future, but they're all the same tyres. So that's certainly not a reason why Gilliam is struggling out there, struggling to heat up those tyres seemingly. He was struggling at the start of the race as well, so maybe just struggling to heat up those tyres with that setup. Brenton O'Brien finally coming into the pits. He was the last driver out of the entire field to come in. We saw quite a few drivers stuck behind him. He's turning a bit of a Jarno Trulli, flashback to 10 years that. But no, O'Brien into the pits. He's going to fall a long way down. However, if there's any silver line, it could be a fun race for him now, because he's going to have some fresh tyres to overtake some guys.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that just to see how he pushes on in the later stage of this race. Nearly coming up on a two-thirds race distance at the moment, 30 laps just about in the books. Still another 17 on the cards to go. So it's been really quick race that's gone through so far. Just turning our attention a little further back up the field. Kenneth Latta and Adam Briggs now scrapping over the 9th and 10th position. So both of these drivers already gaining positions throughout the course of the race. You just catch a glimpse there. Michael Taliancic starting to bake a bit of a gap in the 8th position over these guys. Still probably further down on where he ideally wants to be, but up 10 spots, so still working well there. But these guys scrapping for the final spot in that top 10, and they're doing a really solid job at the moment.
So I think Glenn Postlethwaite during the pit stops, I think, jumped Danny Davison. I'm not 100% sure, but of course we've had some quite a wide range of pit stops deployed by drivers, with some drivers coming in as early as lap 17 and some drivers staying out till about lap 25. But I think in that, Postlethwaite managed to get ahead of Danny Davison, so he's up into 4th place now, is the 95 car. John Emerson also came in quite early. I think he was 6th place anyway before the pit stop, so it didn't really work out for him. Michael Taliancic, though, he stayed out for a while to lap 25, and I think he's actually gained quite heavily from that. So he's up 10 places from his start, the 777 car. And so, yeah, that has done quite well for him. That overcut, Briggs and Ackland kind of in the middle, 23 and 24, and that's on 22. So not too crazy pit stops there. James McKee, I believe, serving that slowdown, serving that drive-through penalty, down in 16th place. I don't think McKee can complain too much because this is the shortest pit lane of the season. So of all the places to get a penalty like that, this is a good one.
Yeah, the shorter lane does help with just cutting back here. Jamie McKnight getting a run down on the inside of Jacob Knight, and should get this position pulled nice and cleanly. Almost a little bit of contact mid-corner though, with Jacob Knight trying to come back, but Jamie should get this one covered off. You see him just swing across the nose there, and moves that ERT car now up into the 14th position, so 10 spot gain for McKnight. This is a better run for him in the second of our 150k races to what we saw first time out at Brands Hatch, and no doubt he'll be looking to gain a few more spots. Next car up the road for him, Thomas Hinds in the 52, likewise already up 12 spots as well. So a few of our midfield runners really coming on strong in the final third of this race.
And of course, could be important this round, after this round of the championship standings, because I believe in the first 4 races of the season, if you finished in the top 30 drivers last season, you automatically get a spot in top split, so you don't have to do pre-qualifying. Only the other 15 drivers have to make their way in. However, after this round, I believe, if you're not, if you're not in the top 30 in the championship for this season, then you don't automatically get in. So even if you had a good last season, if you're having a struggling this season, haven't scored many points, then you have to qualify your way into the top split races. Which really isn't something that you have to do because the field is so competitive, of course. Kenneth Latta, battling at the moment, leaves space for his rival. That was good driving there from Latta, to be fair, in the 269 car. Could have easily been a collision. However, he's going to be under pressure into the long right-hander. Don't see too many moves around this part of the circuit, however. I think we might see one here. Latta leaving space again. These guys, brilliant driving not to make contact around such a narrow part of the circuit. Certainly not what we saw on the first lap of the race. And he's staying ahead of Adam Briggs with all of his might. Briggs with 1 lap fresher tyre. It's not going to be a huge advantage, as now it's all kicking off with these overtakes because we've got Ross and Emerson going side by side, and we've also got Postlethwaite and Davison going side by side. These guys haven't been fighting for the whole race, and now they're fighting simultaneously. That is Ross getting ahead of Emerson then. So nice move with those 8-lap fresher tyres for him, and Postlethwaite staying ahead of Danny Davison. So after that undercut early on, it seems as though these guys with the older tyres are really starting to suffer.
Yeah, maybe just not getting that mid-corner grip that they're going to need to get through the course of the race. Really solid battle though between Postlethwaite and Davison. I'm surprised neither of those two had any contact on the run into one there, but Jordan Ross recovering after we saw him have that earlier issue running wide through Wagon Bend right towards the start of the race. So he's coming back up through the field and having a really solid run. Next candidate for him is the EXG car there of Danny Davison. He's already been able to start putting a bit of a gap too on John Emerson, which is no mean feat. Both those drivers very, very equally matched as far as iRacing is concerned anyway. Only a couple of 100 points between either of them, and lap time at the moment very, very close between both those two.
And watch out for Michael Tajancic as well in 8th place. We've already spoken quite a bit about him in the last few minutes. But he's, of course, pursued sim racing, catching up to his own teammate, of course, in 7th place, John Emerson. So you'd expect that will be quite simple for Tajancic. He's got 8-lap fresher tyres, some of the freshest tyres on the entire circuit. I mean, you've seen Jordan Caruso with maybe fresher tyres out there. So he should be able to catch up. Close battle right now between Andrew Dyson and Guy Leach. That's for 22nd and 23rd position. Guy Leach just making that move. We've also got Bruce Keeley and Damian Johnson very close to them. So just outside the top 20 at the moment, that battle taking place. As Guy Leach has had an off, in fact. I think he's gone off through turn 1. And Damian Johnson as well, struggling.
Yeah, we'll just cut back to the replay just so we can get an idea of what's gone on there. I think so. Yeah, a little bit of contact for both of these guys as well.
Leach dropping loads of places. Then after that one, it's down into 33rd position, down 19 places from his start. So it was a good qualifying for Guy Leach. Hasn't turned into a particularly good race, however. Also got Caruso, who's just got past Bowden, has he? He's got fresher tyres than Bowden. I'm going to try to see if Caruso just... Yeah, he did just get past Bowden. There you go. Only 3-lap fresher tyres, but that was enough for him to get past the 0-1-2 car. Pitted later than everyone else, pretty much, except from Brenton O'Brien, I guess. The legend, that is Brenton O'Brien, with his mega fresh tyres still. Not quite working for him, however, it's working for Caruso, because he's up into 19th place now. James Scott. Oh, sorry.
No, that's what I was saying. While we keep watching Jordan Caruso go around with another penalty to drive through for collision, Bruce Keeley. So he will need to come down the lane and serve that as well. So on lap 34, currently sitting down in that 23rd spot. It's going to be a long way for him to try and gain a few positions. To see him ducking down into the lane now.
Yeah, so he should drop to... oh wow, he's going to drop a lot of place. He's going to be down to 34th place. Think about where Brenton O'Brien is. So troublesome that for him. It's a short pit lane, however, everyone's very close to one another. So he do still lose a lot of places. Rob Harris, currently in 23rd place. In fact, 24th place now. I think he's just been overtaken by David Miller. Yeah, he has. Number 10, David Miller, by the way. There's a lot of David Millers on iRacing, clearly. So if you're David Miller and you're listening to this, then, well, you should be very happy. I don't know. There's no other Sam Fitzpatrick, so I'm very envious of that collection. But Rob Harris, not sure if there's too many Rob Harrises out there. Is trying to fight back in this middle part of the track. Quite a big gap in front of these guys. 4.5 seconds then to Andrew Dyson. In fact, kind of the drivers from about 18th to 24th, all quite spread out. And then we've got this big pack of cars right here.
Yeah, the mid-pack battle is always going to be strong throughout the course of this field. Just in the middle of frame there, you've got Kyle Stokes working his way back up after that earlier issue as well. So good to see him recovering. And a little bit further down, though, some big contact there for Josh Morgan. Really lucky to be able to get that car back onto the ground. And so was that Nathan Anderson?
I think.
Actually, John Emerson, I think it might have been going off wide there on the exit of the final corner. So that's a big loss for him. So this little group now drops down to 3. Nathan Anderson just in front there in the PRT car. Brent O'Brien for ERT right behind. And then Josh Morgan in the Fisher Motorsports Mustang. So these three pretty equally placed as far as lap times go. Actually, Brent O'Brien last time by a little bit quicker than both those two that he's racing around at the moment.
Yeah, he's got some nice pace out there. As O'Brien, I think, was running before the pit stops, up just outside the top 20. So hopefully he can get back to that place now. James Scott, he's not pulling away from Andrew Gilliam. He's being kept honest. and he's not making too much impression as well on Habers. I think he gets a bit of a shove round there, a little bit of a encouragement tap from behind, just to help his acceleration. I'm sure that's what Andrew Gilliam meant from it. 8 seconds these guys ahead of Glenn Postlethwaite. They are still pulling away from Postlethwaite. However, Gilliam just has good tyre life, it seems. He really comes into the fray late on in the stint. Maybe worth changing that setup though for him for these next few races, because he has really been struggling at the starts of the race when he was using 3/10 a lap to Harley Haber, and then by the end of the stint he was the fastest guy. And then at the start of this stint, really struggling to get temperature into the tyres, hence why he sits behind James Scott at the moment. Danny Davison and Jordan Ross are quite close behind these guys. Here comes Ross. Not close enough. We saw James Scott go for a similar move into turn 1 earlier on with a similar gap down the inside. However, Ross doesn't build that confidence. However, we've seen plenty of moves around the outside at turn 2, and he might just get his nose ahead going into the corner. Too much confidence though for Davison. He can cover that one off. A bit of a slide as well for the car just behind.
Yeah, Jordan trying to do pretty much everything he can to get the ERT car up past Danny Davison there, not quite able to do it. I thought he might have caught the grass on the run through Wagon Bend there, just able to keep it off the line, but did drop a little bit of position. You see him just still struggling for that mid-corner grip, the car wanting to spit sideways on him, but working very, very hard behind the wheel just to get the most out of this car. It's interesting just to see both of these cars and how they're set up to get over these bumps as well. I think pretty equally matched at this point in time though. Davis still just struggling a bit for that overall mid-corner grip. You see him just washing wide a bit there, but this is a really solid battle. These guys are still fighting over 5th, 6th position at the moment. Maybe include 4th if you count Glenn Postlethwaite just in front of these guys as well in the SSR car. So potential that any of these drivers could find themselves up in 4th at the end of this battle.
I was bigging up Michael Taliancic earlier on. However, he's not making much impression. We saw last time though at Daytona, Pursuit Sim Racing. I can't recall who Taliancic was driving with, unfortunately. But in the last stint, they really struggled initially, and then they came into much better pace near the end of the stint. So I think they've got really good tyre life at Pursuit Sim Racing. But right now, Taliancic's just not with the times to catch up to those guys. He's only 6 seconds off 4th place on that last lap. He gained 0.2 of a second, maybe even 0.3 of a second, if you round it up. But I mean, you can round most things up. Taliancic making some progress there, but he needs to get on it if he's going to have, if he's going to even catch up, let alone have time to make any overtakes. Closer battles, McKnight, apologies, not McKnight, Jacob Knight. Oh dear, that's going to be confusing this season. He's just ahead of James McKee. 0.6 of a second between those two. However, McKee just making a small mistake seemingly in going through the final corner. You can see how close everyone is when we can go back 10 odd positions, and it's on the same piece of circuit. McKee nowhere near close enough into turn 1. Also got Loxton holding off Lindsell and Caruso. Caruso, remember, with those mega fresh tyres. I think Loxton's going to do very well to keep these guys behind for another 7 laps.
Yeah, but Brett's pretty hard customer to get these cars past, so look for him to use the majority of this track up and obviously do it fairly just to hold everyone behind, but it will be a very, very tough customer for these guys to work their way through. You can just see too, Lindsell going a little bit defensive there on Caruso, not wanting to give up his position there in 19th, but all 3 drivers right now pretty equal. If anything, maybe Loxton struggling a little bit on that mid-corner grip through the slow stuff, but the balance of this car very, very good at the moment through the high speed.
So is he close enough going into turn 1? I don't think he was. Michael Whiting also out on circuit. Yeah, it doesn't seem like Loxton's under too much pressure. That'd be great to go from that far back. Still going to be some decent points for these guys. We've seen plenty of retirees so far in this race. A few guys not having the race that they wanted. Bradley with 2 out of the race, by the way. Also Barger, Kimmons, Gamble having it, struggling around. Stovald far down the order. We have had a good comeback from Carl Stokes, it must be said. Starts in 27th place. Fell way down in the early stages, but is back up into 24. A little bit by himself. Doesn't look like he'll be making too much more progress past Stokes. Frustrating rounds for him, but if you're going to finish high up in the standings, currently second place in the championship, you've got to score as many points as you can. It's rather obvious, but still worth reminding the drivers over so often. Danny Davison, he is, just can't make that move as it stands on Postle 8. Ross, maybe the more likely to make a move in the near future. Emerson now 1.7 behind. Remember, Emerson was overtaken by Ross, and now he's the one catching up. Such is the time that Ross is losing in this pack.
Yeah, Ross is going to have to really sort of figure out a move here to get this positional done. He's starting to be bottlenecked quite heavily now as a result of Danny Davison being in front. You can see him trying to position that yellow ERT car all over the circuit to get a good run here. Just struggling a little bit for the top speed, but if he can stay close enough down through this final corner here, potentially going to set himself up for a run. And this is probably the closest we've seen him in the last couple of laps on exit there. So a bit of a draft here. If he can hold on to it, should see him get that car going down the inside. And at least, if not this lap, maybe the next time we'll buy. But Postlethwaite just positioning that car just defensive enough to really close the door on him.
Yeah, he's not going all out defensive, but he's just positioning his car, as you say, in a position which makes the overtake almost impossible. And turn 1 is such the best place to overtake on this entire circuit. You could go for a move potentially into turn 4, into the the slow left-hander. But of course, it's a bit like turn 2 at Brands Hatch, I find, where you can go for it, but if the driver ahead of you defends it late on, just due to their race line, then you're in a whole heap of trouble, and you're probably going to get yourself a penalty rather than gaining places. You're going to be losing many. So turn 1 really the main opportunity, as you can mug your opponent potentially. That's an unexpected area. They've got a bit of traffic coming up in front of them. But so far the traffic hasn't been too prominent for these guys. For the race leaders, it will be, in fact they are going through the traffic, I think, are currently the race leader. There's Harley Haybu's just overtaken Nathan Anderson and Bruce Keeley. Keeley, of course, with that drive the penalty earlier on. Second and third will have to deal with that as well, but it seems a little bit too late to make an impact, at least on that battle for 4th, 5th and 6th.
Yeah, I think we'll still see that battle go all down to the wire, though. We've still got 3 laps in the books to go, which, I mean, 3 laps is still plenty of opportunity for these guys to get a move done. So we will keep an eye there. We're just bringing up the quickest lap, and Harley Haber taking that as well currently. So potentially we could see some guys maybe look to go for that one at the end, because there is a bit of a prize for the guys that can set the quickest lap. They do get a nice little framed photo of the cars up there done by Sam Blacklock, so always something to sort of be aiming for as well. But Harley Haber right now pretty much put every foot right that he is needed to do. No issues at all throughout the course of this race. Got a really solid restart and basically been unheaded out towards the front. This battle here with Anderson and Keeley, these guys still fighting down over the 27th position as well. Good job from Nathan Anderson, just hold that car out a little bit there and retains that position.
Latzer with an off, and Hines as well. I think they collided with one another. It's storming past there. This is what happened to Latzer. There's no walls around this place, so if you go off, well, you disappear. You go into another dimension, seemingly, aka the pits, after a few minutes of towing. Tom Freer, oh, well, tricky final few laps this for him, because he's just lost 1 place and he might well lose another place. Doing really well in 14th place, at least at the start of this lap. He's down to 17th though, so he's lost 3 places on this lap as Tom Freer. If only the race was 2 laps shorter, and he would be absolutely balling right now. Instead, it's not the case. Greg Sharp and Casey Mann just falling off the circuit for a moment. That's through turn 2, so these drivers getting quite aggressive. Penultimate lap of the race for these guys. I think the race leaders are even on the last lap of the race already. Greg Sharp will just defending into every corner, it seems, right now.
Yeah, Greg doing a really good job. He's got Guy Leach right behind. That's not going to be an easy driver to keep behind. We've just got Harley Haber up on screen as well. He's managed to get past one of the Fisher Motorsports cars there. I think that was Josh Morgan, and working his way down for the final time through the S's, and 1 corner away now from coming home to take round number 4. So very, very fantastic drive and solid effort for Harley Haber tonight.
Absolutely. Round 1, it was ERT. Round 2, James Scott. Round 3, ERT. This time it's Harley Haber and Mach 1 Esports taking the spoils at Summit Point Raceway. His first win of the season, and it really does reignite his championship challenge. It's going to be Scott in second place. You got the business done on Andrew Gilliam in the end, and a great defensive drive from Glenn Postlethwaite to hang on to 4th place. Nice strategy from him as well with an early pit stop. Loxton, I said he'd do well to keep behind these guys. Well, he lost the place to McKee. He kept a few others behind though. Finishes in 16th place. All these guys very close. Jordan Caruso not quite making those moves in the end despite those fresh tyres. He'll finish in 19th position. As the rest of the guys will cross the line. Won't take too long. It's a short lap round this place, and maybe some skepticism, I think, perhaps understandably, Daniel, going into this round of the championship with these cars. As we're going to have a run to the line here with Guy Leach. I said earlier on how the start-finish line is quite far down the track. There was a car slow on the inside, and it was Greg Sharp beating Guy Leach, by the way. But yeah, the start of this race, maybe a little bit of skepticism about this Summit Point circuit. We saw a few issues on the opening lap. However, I think apart from that, some brilliant racing out here. Overtaking not easy, but I think that kind of brought out some interesting strategy calls from drivers. They felt, well, I can't get it done on circuit. I'm going to have to get it done in the pits. And we saw some nice strategies from the guys today.
Yeah, I was a little unsure myself what we were going to see as far as racing was concerned around here tonight. Obviously, we know the circuit very, very good for the club level stuff, the Skip Barbers and the MX-5s, but just seeing how the V8s ran around here tonight, obviously, once we got past that little bit of issue on lap 1 with the contact, the racing was really, really good. We saw some fantastic battles up and down throughout the course of the field, and that continued all the way through to the very end.
Definitely. As the drivers will return to the pits. And we can go through the final order then. Harley Haber wins his first race of the season ahead of James Scott, nearly 4 seconds ahead. Andrew Gilliam from the front row of the grid finishes in 3rd. Glenn Postlethwaite 15 seconds behind him, big gap between 3rd and 4th. But nice job from the 95 car to defend in the closing stages with some very aging tyres. Denny Davison finishes in 5th place. Jordan Ross, decent for Ross. Wasn't the best race in the world, but 6th place, pretty good from 11th on the grid as well. John Emerson, solid result in 7th. There's Michael Taliancic just failing to really show those new tyres near the end of the race. Adam Briggs finished in 9th. And Daniel Ackland, despite a couple of contacts, I believe, rounding out the top 10. Tom Hines was in 11th place, up 14 places. Nice job from him. Then was Kenneth Latzer, Jamie McKnight up 11 places as well. Jacob Knight, James McKee after a drive-through. Nice result there in 15th, ahead of a whole heap of drivers. Britt Loxton, Tom Freer, Sean Linsell, Jordan Caruso in 19th. Marlon McCullen, didn't see too much of him, rounded out the top 20. Then it's Andrew Dyson, David Miller, nice recovery from Carl Stokes in the 888 car. Damian Johnson, Rob Harris, Michael Whiting, Greg Sharp, Guy Leach, Brenton O'Brien, Rob Bowden, and Casey Mann. All those drivers on the lead lap. And then the drivers who are 1 lap down were Josh Morgan, Bruce Keeley, Nathan Anderson, Reese Keane, Jamie Stovold, Scott Gamble, Michael Spitzel, David Kimmond, and the retirees were Matt Morris, Bradley Ratu, Jet Bennett, Josh Pickart, Stephen Varga, and Sean Thompson, who was involved in that big crash at the start of the race, along with a few other drivers. However, it was pretty good after that. So, the interviews then for round 4 of the Acuta AOSC Super Series are about to be conducted. Who will we have a chat? Well, it's pretty obvious. It's always nice when the race winner wants to have a chat with us because it makes the decision for the first interview very easy. Harley Haber, congratulations! Your first race win of the season. You've stopped the James Scott domination and you did it in dominating fashion yourself. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, absolutely. That's been the goal ever since we, obviously started the championship in AOSC, and obviously we didn't get a great start, but James and obviously ERT have been just on fire with every race in, race out, always at the front. Doesn't matter what session. So we definitely put in the time this week, and yeah, obviously to put it on pole, which is a bit of a surprise, and then the fastest lap and the race win. I think that's about as much as I can ask for.
Take us through that qualifying lap because it was possibly the thing that decided the race. We were looking at the times and there was pretty much 2/10 between 20 odd drivers. You were a little bit further down initially and then suddenly you pop up a time which was a 10th and a half clear of everyone else, which was a massive gap. How was that lap? Was it just the perfect lap?
I knew that the car had the pace to do it. At the start of the session, it was a 28-degree track, and I just kept getting held up. Like a lot of people, just a bit unfortunate with the traffic, obviously, in such a short, tight track. But towards the end there, when I got my lap in, I think it was 33 degrees in the track. So not only was it hotter, but than what everyone else had done their lap time on. But yeah, obviously, like you said, about a 10th and a half clear of everybody else. So, mate, I knew the car had it. I just had to put it all together.
And take us through those opening stages as well, because you seem to be pulling away really impressively. You seem to have about 3/10 a lap on Andrew Gilliam. However, you seem to be catching back up to you near the end of that first stint.
Yeah, I think I probably pushed a bit hard on tyres in terms of the first half of the stint. Whereas if I probably took it a bit easier, I could make the stint last a bit further. But I didn't want those guys with the, especially in the second stint, with the overcut coming back at me. Hence why I created that gap so early. But yeah, look, obviously car has pace. I've just got to, even at the end there, we were, I think, within a tenth with James, which is pretty good. So, but yeah, happy to get it done.
Definitely. And now you've got a week off. What are you going to do with yourself? Are you going to do an extra week of practice for the next round of the championship, or are you just going to relax for the next few days?
Unfortunately, mate, there will be no relaxing. I've got Scots next week, which will be another 4 nights of laps, and obviously Monday night official as well, which I'm trying to hunt down James in the championship. So it's been pretty full on recently, and we've had a lot of good momentum building up to this, and yeah, I definitely won't stop here.
And we'd also like to say congratulations on being the Knight Rider Designs Safe Driver for today. So perfect day for you, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I actually got no incident points that race either. I was a bit worried at the end there. I overtook a back marker and we touched, but I got a 0 for it, which was a bit lucky. But yeah, so I think a perfect day, mate, like you said.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Harley. Is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Obviously the team, all the boys together, we've really grouped up as a team this week and made this happen. And obviously, Chris Radicic for the countless hours of hard work that he puts in behind the scenes, whether it's waking up at 3:30 in the morning at his time to test, or testing while I'm at work to get a setup direction made and everything like that. So, but yeah, obviously all of our sponsors on the car as well, all the host of sessions, just everybody in general. It's a good environment to be around at the moment.
Well, awesome to chat to you, Harley. Congratulations on today, and best of luck for the next round of the championship.
Thank you so much, guys. Take it easy.
So that was your race winner, Harley Haber. Scott, who are we going to have... apologies, Daniel. Who are we going to have a chat with next?
Well, I think now we might we'll bring up James Scott, second position tonight. We'll have a chat to see how his went. James, mate, congratulations. Another podium finish for yourself. Unfortunately, not up on the top step this one tonight, but almost as good in second spot. How was it out there tonight? You looked like you had a fantastic lot of pace, but maybe struggling just a touch to get it all put together.
Yeah, it pretty much sums it up. First off, congratulations to Harley for his first win in this year. But for me, yeah, the setup just wasn't quite there, to be honest. Just struggled a little bit in a couple of key areas. and I think that sort of showed with Harley being able to pull away there. But yeah, I'm sure I'll tune it up and get it better for next week.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, you guys have been in the format so far throughout the course of the season, and I'm pretty sure if anyone can get it done, the OT boys will be able to help you out with that along the way. Look, give us your take on the battle with Andrew Gilliam. He put on a lot of good defensive driving early on, obviously still allowing plenty of room, but were you finding at any spots around the circuit you might have been a little bit faster? I think Sam and I were sort of discussing that it looked like it potentially was holding you up just a touch there at points.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before, actually. His car was quite good through the slow speed, so sector 2, but it looked like I had a bit better drive than him. So I think once I got in front after the pit stop there, I think I was able to keep him behind. But in the first stint, it's very hard to follow around here, like spotting your apexes and stuff like that. So yeah, I sort of just stayed behind him and saved a little bit of fuel, but that's quite hard around here considering the track's so short.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not an easy circuit to get around at the best of times, and let alone try and save the fuel. But I guess once you're able to get clear of Andrew, did you find it easy to sort of make a little bit of lap time later on? It looked like at the back end of that race, he almost sort of maybe closed the gap a little bit more. Was that potentially something, tyres maybe falling off a little bit at the back end?
That was a bit of my fault, to be honest. I went a bit too light on the fuel in the pit stop, so I was very close to running out at the end there. So I just tried to save a little bit, so I had a bit in reserve. I think I crossed the line with about half a litre left.
You'd still got a home, that's the main thing. Now, next week, obviously, we've got the week off before we turn our attention to Mosport. I know the question was floated to Haber. Have you yourself got any time off over the off week, or is still plenty of time to be done behind the wheel?
Yeah, no, I was trying to get as many lap done as I can. Mosport hasn't been one of my better tracks, that's for sure. In previous races I've done there, but yeah, haven't done a lap there since this new car's come out, so I'll have to try and work on a setup and see what we can do.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, we'll look forward to catching you up back on track there. Before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations tonight, was there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to?
Yep, first out, shout out to all the ERT boys for all their help, and obviously our wonderful partners, Logitech G, West End Mazda, Too Easy Finance, and Parramatta Isuzu. And you guys for putting on a great show, and all the AOSC admin for their hard work.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations, and we'll look forward to catching you out in a fortnight's time at Mosport.
Thanks, mate.
So that was James Scott, still the championship leader. Only a couple of only 3 first places and 2nd place. Pretty good start to the championship for him. We're going to have a chat now with 3rd place driver, Andrew Gilliam. Congratulations, Andrew. You were outside the top 30 in the championship today, and suddenly put it up on the front row of the grid. You must be delighted with your pace today.
Yeah, really good pace. Like, how tight was the qualifying split? 2-3 milliseconds between James and I. But yeah, no, it was really tight all day. Like pre-qualifying, qualifying, race. Like it was just exchanging lap times with basically the top 5 for the best part of that race.
We saw you at the start of the race seemingly dropping a little bit far behind Harley, maybe quarts of a second lap. However, by the end of the stint, you were catching him back up and you were getting pretty close before the first pit stops. Would you say you were aiming to get good tyre life? Would you say that your car was kind of designed for that, or did it just come to you near the end of those stints?
Bit of both. We always design our race sets with coming back sort of towards the end as the main goal, because you're always going to be racing hard to the last lap. You don't want to be caught out by a safety car in the last 5 laps and then have nothing to fight with. So there's a bit of that, but I was a bit out of rhythm for the first part of that race too, after getting that little shunt at turn 2 right as the safety car came out. So I was just sort of trying to gather my bearings and get on with it. And yeah, the setup definitely came to me, and I could see Harley was dropping wheels off and stuff. But then come the pit time, I just fell off a cliff. I just got completely out of rhythm coming out of the pits, dropped back, and then had to fight with James. And yeah, that was one of the coolest battles I've had in quite a while. It was very exhilarating, like having the lapped cars, and we're all sliding and sneaking off tracks and everything. Like, it was a brilliant race.
Definitely. I mean, that was a brave move from James for the championship leader to go for the gap down the inside there. I guess he kind of thought you'd covered it off, and yet he formed seemingly an extra bit of tarmac to use.
Yeah, caught me off guard a little bit there for sure, but I just knew, like, even if he went around the outside, I was a sitting duck because I dropped another 1.5 seconds off him by like the end of that lap. Like, I just had to let him have the spot and think about fighting back, because I had Glenn Postlethwaite was catching us pretty quick too, and I didn't want to make a 5-way battle by any means. So I definitely let him have the spot to an extent, and then thought I'd battle on a bit smarter once I saw him committed.
It's been brilliant to talk to you, Andy. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd love to thank our sponsors, Track Racer and MXTV, for their wonderful support. And I just want to say, like, a massive thank you to the entire team. Like, this is probably the best our race setups have felt in a while, and it's just hard work from the entire team. We had, like, basically our entire team practicing today, and it was just wonderful to see all of us exchanging feedback and things like that. So I'd just love to give a big shout out to our team as well, Pursuit Sim Racing.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Andy, and best of luck for Mosport in a couple of weeks' time.
Cool, thank you very much, guys.
So that was Andy Gilliam then having a chat with us. And Daniel, I think we've got one more very important interview to do.
One potential
one
negative.
last one on the books, and that being series organizer Nick Hauser, mate. Congratulations, first off, fantastic series, 4 races in, a lot of excitement on the books. How have you found it, and what's new in the world of you?
Well, pretty ordinary tonight. I forgot to add myself to the server, which is why we had to go with the iRacing safety car, so gave myself an uppercut for that. But really happy with the support that we're getting from the community and the feedback we're getting. I was actually just talking to James before you dragged me up then, just talking about the overlays and the quality of the presentation that you guys are putting on. It's just great. It's just a lot of hard work, and it's nice to actually just sit back and watch it, even though you're in race control on race day. So loving the presentation that you guys are doing it, and the excellent show that all the guys are putting out on track.
Yeah, definitely. Race standards have been really, really solid throughout the course of the year. Obviously, the move to live safety cars and race control have been a really big positive from here. Probably the big thing that everyone wants to know, and everyone who's known you for over the course of the years, mate, knows you love driving these cars. How have you found it stepping away from the driver's seat out here and moving into driving the safety car?
Well, at least I get to lead the pack. Look, previously, last this is the first time we've also had 2 splits. When I was racing, I missed doing the enduros, I will admit, but the sprint rounds I was never quite good enough to make the grid anyway. But I do miss the endurance races. I used to love doing the endurance rounds, but I get enough of my racing now, and 10 o'clock in the morning Perth time, I'm in a couple of American leagues and the like, that I get stuff done and jump on the occasional 4 o'clock official in the afternoon. So I'm still getting a fix, still enjoying driving the cars a heap as well.
Fantastic, mate. Well, obviously now the series goes for a week off. We have a bye week next week. Turn our attention to Mosport. The week after that, another 150. Should be a great spectacle. Obviously, we've seen what the cars can deliver out here tonight on a small track. What are your expectations going off to Mosport?
Well, I think the top 3 tonight are again going to be fighting it out for the podium, and then the other thing I'm really enjoying and seeing these people that traditionally haven't been V8 runners right up the front end of the field. Blokes like Adam Briggs and Danny Davison, watching them come into the V8s, and Kenneth Latter as well is another one coming into these V8s and really shaking it up and giving it a hell of a run for those guys at the top.
Yeah, definitely. I've been really surprised with a few of those guys, like Davison, and that the switch they've made from GT to V8 has been really interesting to see. And I think, as you say, they're putting a really good fight forward to sort of the seasoned veterans in the cars. But mate, before we let you go, and obviously sit back and enjoy what remains of the broadcast. Any shout out and support you guys would like to put in from a behind the scenes perspective?
Yeah, obviously to our fantastic sponsors that we've got at Comperte, RMS, Acuta as well, which is all part of the Comperte branding as well, one of those companies. But and yeah, RMS, Wolf Graphics, KRD, and geez, I'm sure I've missed something which is going to come back and haunt me. You guys for putting on the show, and Mark Samuel, obviously, who does a hell of a lot of work behind the scenes with AOSC as well. So, thanks to them and you guys for putting it all out for everyone to see.
Definitely, mate. Well, look, thanks a lot for having us on board. Presenting this fantastic series. Certainly, I know we're thoroughly enjoying it, and the racing that we're seeing as a result of it has been absolutely fantastic as well. So, yeah, thank you very much for that.
No worries, guys. Thanks heaps.
So that was Nick Holzer then series organizer. And doing a fantastic job with race control. And of course, many others who make this series possible. Of course, Acuta Solutions, providing rigging, hardware, and safety equipment. Next Level Racing, working on racing and flight cockpits. Britzy Raceware, providing custom sim and real racing gear. Motum Simulations, of course, VR sim racing centres all around Australia. Night Rider Designs, creating personal liveries for drivers and teams. Wolf Graphics, designing personalized stickers and signs. Sam Blacklock Media, who will be providing the race highlight photos, which of course you'll need to check out on the AOSC Super Series Facebook page, and race management service, of course, helping with the live stewarding. Of course, a week off, Daniel. What are we going to do next week? It's absolutely heartbreaking. We'll have Mosport, though, after that. That's one that really looking forward to. Again, not necessarily a generic circuit, necessarily, that we arguably use too much. A circuit that we use in moderation as such. And, well, we'll be interested to see how these V8 supercars can cope with the long left and right-handers around that place.
Yeah, setup's really going to be really key for getting the most out of these cars. Obviously, you touched on it there. You've got some quite long radius corners that you've got to get around. A lot of track elevation, especially as you drop down. I think it's over corners 2 and 3. You take a big dip, and it's blind the way that leads away from you as you get the cars down there. And then you go from what is quite a flowing first portion of that corner or that circuit to some very hard braking before you get onto the long back straight and come around and do it all over again. So it's going to be a really interesting compromise to see where do the guys want to sit on wing angle. We sort of touched on that at Daytona last week. We saw some advantages and disadvantages with adding a little too much downforce on the back end of these cars. That's something that these drivers and teams are really going to have to focus on and try and get the most out of it and get those critical fine-tuning adjustments sorted.
Definitely will be a challenge for the drivers, no doubt. Another sprint round of the championship, and you do not want to miss it. That'll be round 5 of the Acuta AOSC Super Series, coming to you in a fortnight's time. However, from me and from Daniel and from Scott, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.